Here's the crazy thing about the real estate industry. You've got some agents that make a lot of money, but they're also burnt out. They feel like not as healthy as they possibly could. A lot of them actually resent their business. And then you got a whole bunch of agents who aren't making the money that they want to make. So the question is, which is what we're going to unpack in this video, is can you have both? Can you actually make a lot of money and not hate your life? Well, the answer to that is yes, which is, again, why I'm making this video. I'm going to introduce you to an agent in his second year. I've been coaching him for about a year, and he'll earn just under $400,000 this year, building a business model that doesn't require him to buy leads, to post cringy content on social media. It doesn't require him to have to go after, pain in the butt expired listings or for sale by owners. He's got a completely different business model.
Last year I did 19.9 million in volume, which was my best year because it's my second year. The year before, obviously, I didn't do that. But it's been a journey. That's for sure. It's been a journey.
What type of income did that represent in your market?
Earned income was just under 400,000.
And if you're watching this at any time and you're the type of agent who's actually putting in the hard work, you believe in building a listing-based business, you believe that this is a sales business, but you're not getting the results that you want, you're not making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, then I would love to have a conversation about potentially working together this year or next year. And so if you're open to the conversation, I'm not asking you to make any decisions. We can talk first about what it would look like to have a coaching relationship. I'll put a link in the description beneath this video. So here's what's important about this story. Most agents have this limiting belief that either A, I don't know the market because I didn't grow up here, or B, I don't have this big sphere of influence that I can rely on to give me business. Well, either did Wyatt. You moved to a brand new market. I mean, did you have a huge, pool of friends there and a huge sphere of influence, or did you not know that many people?
No, the only person I knew was my sister, who I was sharing an apartment with, just to make it by. No, I didn't know a single person. All the business I've done have been through people I've met via prospecting. There's been no sphere deals for me.
And so the first thing that we had to do is figure out, okay, what is going to be your lead generation strategy? So when we look at the six options that are out there for all of you, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this. There's only 6 ways to get leads. There's only 6 ways to get new clients. It's either, okay, I'm going to have an unpaid outbound lead generation approach where I go out there and reach out to people that I want to work with. I have an unpaid inbound approach to lead generation where I create content and people call me, which takes forever to do. And in most cases, you're probably in this bucket too. You probably don't have a year before you make your first dollar. You have number 3, which is paid outbound. So it's actually you're paying a company to go get you leads, and then you have to go and reach out to those people. Very expensive, takes a long time to convert. Or you got paid inbound, like doing a geographic farm where you spend a whole bunch of money on marketing, and then hopefully someone picks up the phone and calls you. Or you've got your sphere of influence. So for Wyatt and for most agents, the 5 that I talked about aren't really an option. So we had to put in an outbound lead generation system that allowed him to generate clients without having to spend money and without having to wait a long period of time.
I started cold calling just because everyone told me this is how you get business. I started cold calling my second week in real estate. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just calling people saying, hey, I have a buyer. Are you looking to sell? And people were just hanging up on me. So then I actually looked up some of your YouTube videos, and I was just saying what you were saying. I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So I was just basically just saying what you were saying. And I was getting leads, which was crazy, but I didn't know how to follow up with them. So I had no idea. I thought they were just going to call me because we had a good conversation. Hey, come list my house. And that wasn't happening. I was seeing all these people I was talking to list their house. I'm like, dude, what the heck is going on? And then that's when finally I was like, all right, enough's enough. I need to get a coach. I need a system.
All right. So once we figured out, okay, we are going to build this business through outbound lead generation, the next question is, okay, well, what sources of business am I going to go after? And you see, for most agents, when they think about direct outbound lead generation going directly to the consumer, where do they all go? They all go to the bottom of funnel. Let me explain. There's 3 different lead sources that you can go after when you talk about outbound lead generation. You've got the bottom of funnel, right? This is what we would say like expired listings, canceled withdrawals for sale by owners, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the problem with this business model is, well, it's like we call it the bloody waters. That's why I'm putting it in red. Why? Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry realtor, new, old, doesn't matter. They're all going after that business. And so it's very, very, very competitive. It's a very stressful business model, to be fair, very stressful. You have to be the first voice. You have to be on the phones at 8 a.m. And now you're having to compete with other agents. You're having to go on listing appointments that are an hour away, et cetera, et cetera. Then you have what we call middle of funnel. So these are lead sources that I'll put in like absentee owners and lead sources that have a lot less competition, but still have high desire to actually sell a home. And it's a perfect storm. And then you've got what we call top of funnel. So this would be like circle prospecting, bullseye prospecting, things of that nature. And so when we looked at, what model is going to be the best for Wyatt, it was a clear decision for him. He didn't want to mess around with this bottom of funnel mess of a business model that I talk about all the time. There's a time and place for that. So don't get me wrong. Oh, Brandon, you're talking about not going after for sale by owners or expireds ever? No, not ever. But perhaps the goal is to build a model where you don't have to rely on that. So the model that he focused on was middle of funnel and top of funnel. What lead sources are you working these days? Where are you finding the most success?
So right now, I really just call absentees and circle prospecting. I don't call expireds. I don't call cancels. There's really like no FSBOs in my market. And that's just because what I like to do is target neighborhoods that excite me because I have more conviction behind it. And it makes everything easier for me. Like here in the town I live in, I know the restaurants, I know the parks, I know the schools, I know how to talk about it. So when I do talk to people, I'm able to add so much more value rather than when I was calling expireds, because I called expireds for a little bit. It was taking me all over the county. I don't know these areas. So I felt like I was at a disadvantage because I'm not able to talk in depth like I am about the neighborhood that I know.
So once we have his lead generation strategy in place, we have the sources of business. In other words, the niches, the demographics that we're going to go after. The next big question for Wyatt, like it is for every new real estate agent, is, okay, what are the daily actions? What is the structure that I need to follow every single day so that I can succeed? Because if we're being honest, I do polls on YouTube all the time. And I ask agents, about what their biggest struggles are. And they say things like, not enough leads. But a big portion of them, and you might even be one of them, feels like, well, I'm just not clear. Like I'm not clear on exactly what I need to be doing every single day. And if you follow most realtors around, it's like, man, you can make the argument that most of them aren't very productive. And so we had to put a structure in place that was simple for Wyatt to follow every day. How many conversations are you typically having every day as far in terms of new prospects?
Yeah, so my minimum is 30. So I have the Jesse Itzler's giant calendar that has the entire day of the year. And I love that red X theory that you teach because it truly is. If I don't put my red X on there, I get mad at myself. I'm like, why aren't you doing what you said you were going to do to hit your goals? So it almost like keeps me accountable, and I can look back and see every day in January this month that I missed or that I hit my goal.
So powerful, isn't it?
It is. I love it.
It's crazy. So you're doing about 150 conversations per week. And typically, I know there's averages, but typically, do you know your conversion from contact to lead with this method?
So I've basically been able to, through circle prospecting, for every 50 conversations I had, I'm getting one qualified lead.
Now, the next part of this story for you is, okay, what's the skill involved here? In other words, what do I have to actually say in these conversations to generate a lead? So here's how we define a lead. What are you constituting a lead? Like, how would you explain that to the audience?
Yeah, so a lead for me, so my hook question before I go for an appointment is, I'm assuming that you already have an agent that you're committed to. If they
Say
say
that
no
one more
to that,
time. So everybody listen, this is what we've been talking about for, it seems like 10 years. What's the hook?
I'm assuming you already have a rock star agent in town you're committed to.
And what happens when you ask that to people? How do they typically respond?
A lot of people are like, well, not really. I mean, we know a couple realtors, but because people they want who's going to bring them the most value. From what I've found, very few people are actually truly committed to the realtor. There's a few out there, but I feel like if you can bring someone enough value, they'll think twice.
So the next question is, well, how do I go about generating these leads when I talk to these people? And so Wyatt and I actually broke down a full role play of exactly what you should say in order to generate a high qualified, highly quality listing lead that you can put into your pipeline. Can we do a little role play so people know kind of what this conversation sounds like?
Sure.
Yeah. So ring, ring, ring. Hello, this is Brandon.
Hey, Brandon, what's going on? This is Wyatt. I'm a realtor here in San Clemente. I know I'm calling you out of the blue. I was just hoping to ask you a quick question, if that'd be okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'll be super fast. Appreciate it. I was just calling about this property on 123 Main Street. I just get the feeling if I were to ask if you had any interest at all at selling with what's going on with values, you'd probably say not a chance, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, we've been here for a while, and we've been thinking about it, but we haven't really made any decisions yet.
Wow. Brandon, I'm actually shocked to hear that, just because of the desire of this area. If you don't mind me asking, what about this property, this area just isn't working for you right now?
Well, we like I said, we've been here for a long time, and so we're just looking to get something, eventually get something a little bit smaller and downsize.
Gotcha. Okay, so just a little too much house for you.
That's right.
Gotcha. That makes total sense, Brandon. And if you don't mind me asking, I mean, when you do go to get that smaller house, is it an option just to rent this out and cash flow it, or?
No. We don't want anything to do with being landlords.
Yeah, I get that. It can be tough, especially in this state. Okay. Well, Brandon, let me ask you. I mean, before I let you go, I mean, let's say I'm not saying I have a buyer now, but let's say I were to be able to generate offers for you within the next 60 days. Would that cause any issues for you down the line, or do you think that would be perfect according to your timeline?
No, I think that'd be way too fast. We're probably not looking to do something until probably next year, to be honest with you, is when we're kind of looking to do something.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes total sense. So next year. So it's not a fire sale. It's not something you guys have to do anytime soon, which is a great place to be in, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're going to get through this year. We're going to take care of some things and do a little bit of upkeep to get the home ready. But yeah, we're going to be looking at this probably next summer.
Gotcha. And Brandon, I'm assuming when you do start to ramp things up, you probably already have a rock star agent here in town that you're fully committed to. Did I get that right?
No, we don't really have an agent.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Brandon, I'll tell you what, I got to hop on another call here, but before I let you go, I mean, would you mind if I ask just one more quick question?
No, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon, I know I'm just a stranger calling you out of the blue, so you let me know if this makes sense. But, a lot of times what we like to do for our clients here is when people are, let's say, 6 months to 8 months out, we like to do what we call a preview appointment, just so we can get eyes on the property and start to give you some tidbits on things that you could do to get the home ready ahead of time. That way, to when you guys are ready to make a move, it's not just rush in, fire sale, trying to get everything together. Would you see any value in that at all, Brandon? Or do you think that'd just be a total waste of your time at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but probably when we get a little bit closer, not right now. House is just a disaster right now. So maybe when we get closer, we can definitely do something like that.
Yeah, it makes total sense, Brandon. I guess at this point, I definitely don't want to be the annoying realtor. I mean, at this point, when do you think it makes sense for me to follow up with you again?
Yeah, why don't you give us a call, maybe early next year.
Okay. Early next year, around January. Okay. I'll shoot you a call then. And Brandon, in the meantime, if you think of anything that pops up that you have a question about, feel free to shoot you a call. Our office is just down the street, and I'm happy to pop in and assist any way, shape, or form. Okay.
That'd be great.
Gotcha. Thanks, Brandon.
Nice. Okay, good. Now, for most agents, generating leads, once they get the hang of outbound prospecting, they start generating a lot of leads. They start generating a lot of appointments. But the problem is, and it's so true, that the money is actually made in your follow-up. It is extremely rare that you are going to call up a homeowner randomly, have one conversation with that person, go meet with that person, and on that meeting, them sign a contract that you're going to actually get the listing. That is very, very rare. In fact, 80 to 90% of the clients you work with will come via your follow-up or the lack thereof. And so many agents say, man, that's probably my biggest struggle is lead follow-up. I keep putting in the work to generate the opportunity just to see them go on the market with another agent. It's really painful. So here's what we did. Here was the lead follow-up system that I helped Wyatt to install in his business. Now let's talk about the importance of lead follow-up, Wyatt, and what you're doing there that turns these contacts or these leads into an appointment. Like, can you walk us through the importance of lead follow-up and what you're doing?
Yeah. So this was my weakest pillar, if you will, before we started working together, Brandon. I was just losing. I lost 8 million in volume last year because my lead follow-up just wasn't where it was supposed to be. So this is something I've really been working on. So the biggest thing that's helped me is mailbox power has completely changed my business 100%. But B is asking, just like I did you, when it would make sense for follow-up again. Because I never asked that question before, so I was just guessing. So now
you were forcing. You would say to yourself, "Well, I'll just call this." Yeah, that's what most people do. So you're just saying, "Hey, when would it make sense?" It's like the best language pattern. When would it make sense to X, Y, and Z? Go ahead.
100%, 100%. That changed everything for me. So then when they tell me, just like you said, January, I'm probably going to call them in November. Nothing's worse than saying, "Hey, call me in January." Then I see their house on the market in December. It keeps me up at night, man. That's my pet peeve. So I always call them a little early. And then basically when I follow up with them, I'm basically just picking up where we just left off about getting together. When would it make sense to get together? And just trying to add more value. In the meantime, though, before that follow-up call, I like to send them emails and texts of comps that pop up. Because I'm trying to act as if I'm already their agent before I have that contract signed. Because then it's like, if this guy's been keeping us updated on comps, he's keeping us updated on our value, he's checking in, like, why would we interview anyone else? I feel like most people don't want to interview multiple realtors. You know, like I don't want to interview multiple CPAs. It's like, if you can do what I'm asking you to do, why would I interview anyone else? I feel like that's, from my experience, that's what I've ran into is like, if you can just give them a good service from the beginning, most of the time, I usually don't have a lot of competition that I'm competing against when it's time to present.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that presentation in just a second. So just for context, because if I'm in the audience, I'm saying, well, mailbox power, what are you sending them exactly? What cadence are you sending it to them? Are you just doing the monthly seller nurture sequence?
Yeah, so I have the weekly. I just used your templates, basically. I have the weekly and the monthly. I just put, obviously, my branding on there. And if they're selling, I'd say within the next 6 months, they're getting a postcard from me every 5 days. If they're selling within the next year to 2 years, I'll keep it monthly.
Yeah.
And then the secret weapon is that brownie, man. That's every time I send that, they either call me or text me.
Of course. It's law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
So do you send the brownie on the 5th mailer or are you sending it on the first one?
I send it on the 5th, but if I get a preview from the initial call, I send it after the preview. And I put a message on the brownie that says, "Thank you so much for inviting me into your lovely home," with, just like some frou-frou stuff. And they really appreciate that. It's almost like a gift that I send right after I leave.
Smart. And then your emails and text, because everybody wants to automate all of their follow-up. Are you doing these manually? Or are you setting that up on something in your MLS that's shooting out comps that when they hit the market? Or how are you executing on your emails and texts?
Yeah, so I used to be big into drips, but I realized that drips are just so unpersonal. And it's just, I feel like every realtor is putting someone on a drip. So I try and keep it pretty personal if possible. So what I do is I just check the inventory every morning. And that's why working one area is easy, because I just check the inventory in my city. And when something pops up, I can just send it to those prospective people, because there's only really 7-8 major neighborhoods in my city. So it's really easy to manage in terms of when something new pops up to send it to someone if it's in their area.
Totally. And what would that email or text sound like? Like if I'm on your list, what would it kind of feel or sound like?
Yeah. So depending on how hot the lead is how aggressive it'll be. So like, it might just be like, "Hey, John, did you see 123 Main Street list for X amount? Isn't it crazy what's going on with values here? I remember back in the day when these homes were going for 500,000. Now it's 1.2. Just like a little message that's like, it's a little teaser, but it also just shows them the comp. And if it's not that warm of a lead, then I'll just talk about the comp and I won't add in the, "Isn't it crazy what values are doing?" Because I don't want to come off too salesy if they're too far out, if that makes sense. So I just base it based on how hot the lead is.
Well, I hope what people are hearing, like, I bet you 99% of the people that listen to this now or in the future have missed the reason why you make this thing work. It's all about the follow-up. And the follow-up specifically, not automated follow-up, not throwing them and tucking them into a CRM and hitting go. And it's no. What you're doing is what we call going deep, not wide. One, you've targeted an area. Two, once they're in your world, you're actually nurturing people, not leads. They're not just numbers inside of some database. That's Bob. That's Nancy. That's Jill. And so when things pop up, you actually know these people inside of your world because you've already emailed them and texted them, which don't speak to this yet because I want people to understand when it comes time to present, the business has already been earned. And so we'll talk about that in a second. But I am curious, how are you managing these relationships? Do you use a CRM? Do you just use pieces of paper? What are you doing to manage these leads once you do generate them?
Yeah. So for me, the simplest methods work for me the best. So I didn't want this like elaborate system of like, I know a lot of people are big on tagging. I use Follow Up Boss as a CRM.
Sure. Okay.
I simply just set a task and that task auto populates to my Google Calendar. So if they say call me in January, I'll just set a task to call them in November. And
so you don't forget.
Exactly. And then I'll see my Google Calendar, which is time blocked, and I'll get an email reminder, call Jim, and I'll just pick up the phone and call him. And maybe I'll get 10 of those a day, but then it's just a constant reminder of, because those calls, some of them might be an hour if they're chatty, but some of them they might not answer and I got to call back. So that's only like a 30-minute time block to an hour time block, really, a day to just stay on top of these people.
And the best part about this business model is when it comes to actually going and meeting with the prospects that you've generated that now you have an amazing relationship with because of this business model. The listing presentation, the listing appointment is so simple. I want you to talk about how easy that listing appointment is doing this method versus going on an expired listing appointment. Because in my experience with a pipeline business model like yours, the business is already pretty much won by the time you get the appointment. Has that been your experience?
100%. I don't think I've I guess competed against people, but I didn't know I was competing against them. They told me after the fact. And I've never presented to someone and not gotten a listing just because I've never presented and not gotten a listing before.
So you have 100% listing appointment met to contract signed, 100% close rate.
Yep.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And because?
Just because I've done the work before I've even gotten in the door. Like I've already been working for them. So to me, it's like there's really no reason for them to not sign with me unless they want to take a discount broker. But they know up front that I'm not a discount broker just based on the white glove service that I'm giving them. And I can already, a lot of the times, another reason why I like circle prospecting is I've already met a lot of these people at my opens. And I can be like, hey, do you remember how I treated you when you came into my open? I shook your hand. I looked you guys, I said hi to your kids. I showed you the house in a very eloquent manner. That's the same thing I'm going to do to buyers that come into your home. So they can already see the value because they've already seen the proof of concept. And it's just, I don't know. A lot of people just tell me you're just different than a lot of realtors. And I just think that's because I use a different language pattern. I just feel like what we learn here is it's very non-traditional. It's not like hard driver sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're shooting people straight. And just by this interaction, you are very different. Like you are very trustworthy. Like you're likable. Everybody on this workshop right now is probably like, yeah, dude, this guy's got it going on. And so to which extent do you actually have to even present? That's really the question. Are you having to go through the full listing presentation to earn the business? Or are those conversations pretty easy?
No, most of the time they're showing me the house and they just want to know my opinion on value. And then from there, it's kind of just, that's it. Like that, I haven't really had to like roll out the full presentation. Like, I don't think ever, to be honest with you, now that I think about it.
It makes total sense.
I don't think I ever have.
So if you're going to copy this business model, we talked about lead generation. We talked about the sources of business. We talked about what the conversation should sound like in order to generate one of these leads. We broke down the entire lead follow-up system. We talked about how to actually acquire the listing itself. The last piece of this is how do I actually leverage this listing into getting more listings? So let's talk about the flywheel, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A. So if you guys have questions for Wyatt, start getting in line now, okay? You can raise your yellow Zoom hand. We'll get to you guys. So what I mean by flywheel is you do everything we just talked about for the last 30 minutes. Now you get a listing. Talk to us at the importance about how you're leveraging that listing with open houses for more listings. I can't, for some reason, I suck at explaining this to agents because I keep saying it and people keep not doing it. So maybe you could say it better than I can say it because I'm not getting the point across that open houses is my favorite way to get more listings. Tell us your experience.
In my opinion, open houses are the highest leverage, I guess, prospecting you can do. Technically, it's not outbound because they're coming to you. But if they're in a good area and they're priced correctly, there's going to be a slew of people there. And when you're there, it's simply, instead of trying to sell people, just get to know people. Like one of my old mentors told me, just make friends. Like people coming in, I'm shaking hands. Where are you guys from? Even if they say they're working with someone, I still get to know them. Because a lot of the people, they're working with people, they still circle back and they still want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Because you're just treating them a little different than most realtors do. So what I do is when I get a listing, I'll call around and I'll invite all the neighbors to the first open house because I want to meet everybody. So that's the first round of circle prospecting. I'm not selling anyone. I'm just saying, hey, we're listing your neighbor's house. Come on in. Then once we start getting offers, again, if it's priced correctly, let's say we get 2-3 offers, I'll call around and be like, hey, we have multiple offers. You know, it's kind of crazy what's going on. We have some people that are going to miss out. Are you guys open to considering, you know, having some buyers come in and check your place out? Right. Then after we close, I'll call them again and say, hey, we just closed. Here's our final close price. Because not everyone looks at Zillow in their neighborhood all the time. I tell them a little bit about the sale. It's obviously because you're involved in the sales. You can tell them, hey, this is what happened. This is how many offers we had. This is how much interest. This is how many people came into the opens. And then you can see if there's any curiosity on their standpoint. So then you just start to generate interest. And then I'm typically able to set anywhere per listing from 1 to 2 previews just off that. I'll call it the 3x3 method alone.
Yep.
And that's not even doing the open houses. Open houses are, you meet even more people. That's just the circle prospecting around the open houses.
That's right. And I'm going to ask the live audience, what is the most powerful marketing of all time? Nope. It's something called social proof. That's what's going on. Because here's the thing. Social proof is more powerful than a referral because even a referral, they haven't yet experienced it. They're taking somebody else's word for it. In other words, people don't believe what you tell them. They think you're full of it, right? They sometimes believe what other people tell them, but guess what they always believe? What they experience for themselves. So when they see you at an open house and how you represent somebody's other home, you don't need to tell them anything. They're experiencing it. They've had their own experience seeing you in action. There's nothing more powerful than that. Open houses is the only, to Wyatt's point, leveraged opportunity you have to show somebody how you work and get out of telling people how you work. It's way more powerful. Then the same thing. We circle prospect. We have that. We shake their hand, put them in the database. When they have time to sell, you win the business. It's really simple, but you got to do the work. Wyatt, would you agree?
100%. And the easiest appointments I go on are people I met at my open houses.
Mine too. You can go path 1, right? Which is this low hanging fruit. We call it this like those are the blood infested waters. The business everybody's competing with. That's the hardest to get. You have no control where that's at. FSBO's expired land. Have to be really good with your presentation. Have one shot at it. You can't build a pipeline because it's one and done. Or if you could be a little patient, like 6 months patient, you can have a completely different business. And that's my next question for you is, do you love your business? Like, do you resent this at all from the standpoint of like, you can do this when you want. You can go on appointments when you want. You probably have tons of freedom, tons of flexibility. There's no urgency. There's no stress around prospecting, unlike there is when you're going after FSBOs and expireds. Can you speak to that lifestyle?
Yeah, so you kind of hit the nail on the head, Brandon. I have a ton of fulfillment from my business model because I like the people I'm working with.
That's right.
Whereas when I call expireds, I've never gone on an expired appointment that I can remember. Because when I talk to them, they're so resentful, they're bitter. They'd be like, well, I have 20 other agents that do it for this. And I'm like, cool, hire those agents. I don't want that business model. That's not why I got into real estate. And yeah, doing it this way takes a little more time. But I just didn't care. Like when I first started in the business, I almost ran out of money, but I didn't care. I was like, I'll put everything on the credit card because I know my time's coming. Because I know if I keep having these conversations, it's inevitable. And luckily, not too long after that, it did. Real estate, from my little 2 years of experience, is a lot simpler than people try to make it seem. They try to make it seem like we're curing cancer here. It's really just about doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Like my favorite like method is what Kobe said about if I practice 3 times a day and you practice once a day, eventually over time, I'll be so far ahead of you that I can completely stop practicing and you can practice 3 times a day and you still won't catch me. That's how I view prospecting. Like I'm just creating separation from everyone. Even if you've been in this market 10 years, like I'm just going to talk to more people over time than you.
That's right. 30 contacts a day times 240 days is 7,200 conversations. You do that for 5 years, that's 35,000 conversations. There's not an agent in their career that would be able to catch you. Yeah. And so that's exactly what happened to me, right? And so that's why I say 5 years, 35,000 contacts later, you're unstoppable. And so now you have the complete system so that you can just copy it for yourself. Now, I know I just showed you bits and pieces of this conversation with Wyatt. If you want to see his entire story on how he's able to generate these results, you can watch the full interview here.